Hello, everybody, and welcome to Midweek Mindfulness. it's uh, it's a joy to be here with everybody. So thank you for coming today. Um, it's funny. I, um, I so appreciate this time and the dedication that you all have to, your own personal growth and development. Um, so often I ask groups or people that I'm working with or just meeting if they remember the classes they took in elementary school that taught them how to learn to really grow their emotional intelligence, how to be able to experience their feelings and sit with difficult feelings and be able to fully experience whatever it is that they were, that they had going on in life in a rich and meaningful way. And everyone always smiles and goes, no, and they look around like, I didn't have those classes. Did you have those classes? And for some reason nobody had those classes, right? like it's not a thing, right? So by investing in this type of practice, this is what you're doing, right? Um we're learning to hello baby, we're learning to really pay attention to ourselves in a deep and meaningful way, um, and to do it non-judgmentally, right? So that we can really begin to connect with, to be able to decipher between, the voice of the inner critic that has a function in our lives, right? The inner critic that we all experience isn't necessarily like bad or evil or anything. It's actually a really helpful tool because it allows us to go through a decision making process and to be able to make decisions that can be very helpful for us for keeping ourselves safe and for keeping our bodies alive and for managing situations. So as we go through and we keep watching those thoughts that come up in our minds, right? And we hear that inner critic saying those things that feel so terrible when they're turned against us, you know, bringing the non-judgment to that voice is incredibly helpful. But in order to be able to do that, like part of that process is to recognize like why is it there? Why does it function that way? And that allows us then to kind of broaden the picture, right? Broaden the scope of our awareness about, why we have this plaguing voice. Because, well, if you think about it, for so many of us, that inner critical voice, I mean, those those things that we say to ourselves, like we would never say them to anyone else, not on our worst day. Um, and so we're actually relearning how to function, right, with our interior life experience, where we're letting go of um, some of the self-identification with that inner critic, right? We start to recognize that that is the voice of our culture, right? That's the voice of the communities we grew up in, the families we grew up in, the um, the pastors, the priests, the teachers, the coaches, right? All these different people in our experience that really just wanted the best for us, the vast majority of them just really wanted us to be successful and to do well and to be safe, right? That's always the big thing, be safe and be successful. But in doing so, they conditioned us to set sometimes impossible standards for ourselves, and that can be really, really painful. That can be really harsh because over time we take that on and then we become, right, we start to self-identify with that critical voice, or we take on the lash, right, in order to make sure that we get the things done that we have to get done. And so we end up using our insecurity. We start using our fear, we start using our fear of failure, of our fear of disappointing the people that love and depend on us in order to manage the pieces of our lives, which, for some people, like, they're like, yeah, of course, that's what you do. Like, what else would you do? Right. So this is an opportunity to really engage with those voices and begin to see them for what they really are. And once we are able to do that, right, which is why we release them, we take note, right? We don't want to discount it as something that's not an important part of our experience. It is an important part of our experience. But we practice letting them go and letting them go and letting them flow on down the river of thought and returning to our point of awareness, our breath, our body, again and again and again and again, so that we develop the mental strength to be able to manage what's happening inside of us so that we can actually pay attention to that which we really want to pay attention to. And we don't become overwhelmed by particular things that are coming up for us. So again, our practice that we tend to be on here is really noticing again and again and again. Really coming back to that point of awareness, coming back to that, whether it's the breath or the body. That tends to be the practice. The other practice that we do is things like loving kindness, right? And loving kindness is a way to, yeah, the four-legged fur babies are all in here today. Um, Loving kindness is a way to work with the inner critic in more of a long-term project, so to speak, right? And that is the inner critic developed because, for the formative years of our lives, um, those voices were dominant and we didn't have a choice, right? Until you're even 8 and 9 years old is the first time you start to have that level of awareness. By the time you're 12 and 13, you're starting to actually begin to engage in some abstract thinking. It's really not till we hit 29 or 30 that we're actually fully conscious and capable of beginning to frame out our own worldview. So a lot of that practice is not necessarily undoing the past. I see it more as choosing a new path to follow, right? And then practicing that path. Because the more you practice something, right, the more synaptical connections your brain creates, right? So what we fire, we rewire, right? So every time you walk down that synaptical path of being kind to yourself, being gentle and kind with others, being understanding, not reacting in a way that you're not choosing, right? Not allowing um, not becoming the feeling, instead experiencing the feeling, right? It's that old adage, that old proverb that once you master yourself, right, then life becomes very simple, right? It becomes very beautiful because in self mastery, we're able to then, right, to manage ourselves in pretty much whatever situation comes up for us. But again, when you're thinking of that self mastery, there's different paths to that end. And for most of us, the quickest and easiest, or at least the path that was passed down to us, is the one that is extremely critical, and it tends to be very fear based. We live in a society that's always worried about how many resources we have and how we're able to manage that, right? Um, there's this scarcity that we live with on a regular basis, and it conditions us to feeling like we aren't enough or that we'll never have enough. Um, and so as we start to rewire, right, as we start to um, rethink how we approach ourselves in that way, things begin to change. It's one of my favorite Wayne Dyer sayings is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Right? When you look at something that used to be a lack in your life, and you look at it and you realize your gratitude that whatever does exist is actually there and meaningful to you, then it changes the way you look at it. If you look at that car that you've had for a while and you're like, yeah, I really would like to have, something better, something faster, something more ecological, something more, like, all good intentions, right? Um, but then it creates a feeling of less than, right? A feeling of lack, right? Instead of looking at it and going, I am so grateful for all the times that this vehicle has been able to take me where I would like it to go. Now I have options. Do I want to invest in something that would be, better for the environment? Is that something that's reasonable for me right now? Um, and then planning the steps in order to attain that, if that's something that's important to you, right? So again, it's a shift in our relationship with ourself that then shifts our relationship with everyone and everything else. So, and that is, for most of us, at least for me, this is a lifelong pursuit. So again, I just want to thank you all for being here and investing in your own level of, self nurture and self awareness. Um, and as you develop these, new habits and behaviors within yourself, you'll take them into the world. And so you'll actually be offering them to the people around you, because that's how we got them. We got them from the people we were around. And so then, the more we practice, the more we show up in the world, maybe in a way we would like to see the world, maybe a little kinder, maybe a little less judgmental, or whatever that looks like. Or maybe it's just walking into the world being grateful, for so many things that, are in our lives, or that we have in our lives, or the people that we have in our lives, or the experiences. And, that in itself is a very mindful practice. So again, gratitude to everyone. So go ahead and get into your comfortable position. Again, remembering, as always, our intention is to be physically comfortable and mentally alert. So whatever that position looks like for you, whether it's sitting upright with a tall spine, it could be reclining if that's not comfortable. Laying down for those where, that is the most comfortable, due to, whatever experience we have with our bodies. Um, and just being mindful of that and being accepting of whatever that looks like for us. Like, there's no judgment for that. We're all together on this journey, but we're all also unique in how we manage that, and the expression that we have of our physical journey. So find that place as I invite the bell to go ahead and begin our meditation today. So if it feels good, maybe beginning with a nice, deep, slow, gentle breath in, and a nice, long, slow release, making it even longer than the in breath. Beginning to focus our awareness on the breath, really noticing the physicality of the breath, right? Notice the coolness at the tip of the nostril on the in breath. How your body just gets heavy and relaxes on the out breath. Sharpening our awareness, really noticing the feeling of the breath. Following a breath all the way through. Noticing the circular nature of a breath, how it It kind of feels like it has a beginning and then it hits that place where the lungs are full and it shifts over to become an out breath. And then we run out of air and it shifts over to become an in breath. So if it feels good to focus on those different separate parts, really noticing them, then bring your awareness to that. Just really experiencing the breath all the way through and staying with it, right? And each time our mind questions or is distracted or something comes up, again, no judgment there. That's the process. That is the activity of the mind. That's what it's there for. Again, we're not trying to eliminate that in any way. We're just letting it have its place in our awareness. Our awareness is far greater than our thoughts and feelings. So sticking with that breath and following it all the way through. And letting your body now begin to take over control of your breathing. If you can, if your mind is really in charge right now, that's okay too. Just notice that. Just notice whatever is coming up for you in this moment as it's centered and framed around our breath and our breathing. And if it feels comfortable, again, just always really being aware of your own experience. Maybe bring your awareness to your forehead and your brows and those little muscles around your eyes. Just notice what's happening here as we continue to breathe in and out. Is there tension? Is it relaxed? Is there nothing at all? Like, what do you notice? See if you can hold that awareness, that noticing, along with the feeling, the sensation of the breath, and connect them if that feels appropriate and natural or not, just depending on how your experience goes. And then noticing what happens as we breathe and we bring our awareness to a part of our bodies. Maybe shift down to the neck and the shoulders where so many people hold stress in their bodies. Again, really being with this part of the body. And when I suggest that we connect, we're connecting the feeling, right? The feeling of the breath and the feeling of the body part or the area of the body. Notice how they connect. And if your mind is really active, or if you're just curious, play with the breath. Change the depth and the richness of it. Change the speed. Change the length of the inhale or exhale. It's your body, it's your experience. Explore, right? Let your curiosity flow with this amazing activity that we use to take our environment into our bodies and nurture ourselves with it, and then to give off parts of ourselves that nurture the environment. Notice any place in your body where you may be holding tension, and just begin to really be aware of it as you breathe. And now, if you're really comfortable, and if it feels appropriate to you, with each out breath, just let your whole body get heavier and heavier, more and more relaxed, letting your feet sink into the floor, letting your body sink into the cushion of the chair, the sofa, whatever you happen to be resting against. See if you can let your hands get so relaxed and heavy that you don't even feel like you have control of them anymore. Just letting everything go, except for that sensation of the breath. Deeper and deeper. Dropping down, 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 down. Way down deep. letting go. And if you'd like to continue your meditation after our time is ended, then please just stay with where you are right now in this moment. But if it's time for this to come to an end for you, then go ahead and begin to deepen your breathing. Again, beginning to notice your body, maybe wiggling your fingers and wiggling your toes as we bring our meditation to an end. And that's our time for this week. So again, as always, extending my deep gratitude for each and every one of you for being here and sharing in our practice. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see everybody next week at Midweek Mindfulness.